Back at Seasalter in North Kent, fishing the Waldens caravan park stretch. This used to be a good area for plaice, but now they're few and far between. Scaldy bass are now the main species, but there's still a chance of flatfish. My first session was in late May, fishing adjacent to the outfall pipe and jetty. I started on the jetty, but had to move as the water covered it. I caught my first scaldy bass there, and having moved, and my first cast, I've got another one. They are by no means specimens, but are quite fun to catch. The venue's pretty shallow, and on this occasion the water's pretty clear. The sea comes in pretty quickly and leaves just as fast, giving you about 5 hours of fishing time. The jetty can be pretty good when it's flooding, and you can catch both float fishing and spinning. Here I'm just using a more conventional approach, using continental rods and braid. I'm using my 4.6 metre Comic Zero rods and Pen Affinity 7000 reels. My rigs are a 3-hook short snood clip down version and a 3-hook long snood flapper, the former for distance work and the latter for short to medium range. I'm using both lugworm and ragworm, but I've got more confidence in rag. The tidal pull is usually weak, so there's no need for leads with wires. If you're looking for extra distance, then you can wade out to cast. I won't wade far unless I'm really trying to hit the horizon, but that's not normally necessary here. With my second rig, I'm trying to cast just short of or in line with the jetty. Already I'm getting plenty of indications with little knocks. Sometimes the knocks can be difficult to hit, so quite often I stand and hold my rod. While I'm waiting for a better take, I run through the locational details. Seasalter is on the North Kent coast at the mouth of the Swale. Opposite is the Isle of Sheppey with some familiar venues. Whitstable is adjacent to and east of Seasalter. Further along the North Kent coast you've got some well-known ray marks. I'm pointing out some of the nearby marks, then zooming in on Seasalter itself. My previous Seasalter video focused on Joy Lane, but you've also got a water ski area and a sportsman's stretch at the far end. The Waldens stretch is along the Faversham Road, between the Seasalter Sailing Club and the outlet jetty. I've pinpointed the 2 marks that I fished for this video. The little knocks didn't develop, so I put my rod down and dragged the baits to my other rod. I get another knock on the inside line and I managed to hit that. Another scaldy bass, which is about the average size for this stretch. Unfortunately, some swimmers get in the water and move towards where I've been casting. The swimmers don't seem to have much of an impact, as I'm still getting bites on my distance line. A much smaller schoolie this time. Bites on both lines, so it doesn't really matter where I'm casting. Although I'm more likely to catch a little bass on ragworm, I'm still trying black lug, just in case there are some flatfish about. I might prefer that. There's plenty of action now. You may have noticed I've added a pop-up bead to this snood to try and get a bit more movement in the bait. Occasionally that works, and sometimes the fish prefer that bait. Twitching the bait definitely works, and is quite important when you're fishing for these small squally bass. Another one to the snood with a pop-up bead. Quite often you get a run of fish just as the tide starts to ebb. A bit monotonous, but a busy, enjoyable session, which ended up with 12 scaldy bass. No sign of any flatfish though. Before fishing the stretch again, I decided to look over the area at low water. Here's a view from the end of the outlet jetty. The inside line, where I've been casting to, there's a patch of mud with plenty of worm casts. It always surprises me why the fish prefer ragworm when the worm casts are from lugworm. Nevertheless, it is an indication as to why the fish move into this area. If you're planning to fish here, it is well worth visiting at low water to find out potential fish holding areas. I specifically chose the second spot, again because there's an extensive patch of mud which is within casting distance. Looking at this patch close up, you can clearly see where the worm casts are. I find that you're more likely to catch plaice and flounders if you're casting over an area that looks like this. So my second visit was at the beginning of July, and once again I'm getting bites straight away. That's promising. Something's had a chew of a lugworm on my bottom hook, so that needs to be replaced. Before I recast, a quick pan round of the area where I'm fishing and a quick look at the rigs. For the inside, I've opted for a long snood sheppy rig this time. It's got light size 3 hooks and I'll be using smaller baits. My inside rig will occasionally be cast further, try and hit that mud patch. As you can hear, it is a bit breezy, but the wind is from behind and that helps with distance. A southerly wind flattens the sea, and that's what you're hoping for if you're trying to catch plaice. It didn't take long to connect with one of the bites. Scaudy bass number 1. Although it is a bit of a long shot, this is where I last caught a plaice at Seasalter about 3 years back. If I remember correctly, it was full of weed and only had 2 bites that day, with the other bite coming from a scaudy bass. The plaice was over £1, so sizable. These slightly better schoolies put up a reasonable fight for the size. Although you might not be able to make out this conversation, this local came over to have a chat. He says he watches my videos even though he doesn't fish, and since it's not the first time I've had someone in that position come up to me and have a chat, I'd like to publicly thank all those who do so. It does make a big difference when others recognise you and appreciate your efforts. It's humbling to get that positive feedback, as well as finding out more about the venue you're fishing. This venue, like many, has drastically changed over time, and recollecting what it used to be like brings back memories of the days when this area was full of fish and other sea life. Unfortunately, this fish came off on the way in. Went a bit quiet at the top of the tide, but the action's picked up now since it's ebbing. Still only little bass though. Time to move down the beach. I'll get a bite before I can move the rest of my gear down. Sometimes it takes the fish several goes before it takes the bait properly. sea's receded quite a bit and must be only a couple of foot deep now. I'll get a couple of rattles which look slightly different. Well, flatfish at long last, and it's a double shot. Not plaice, but I'm still happy enough to catch these flounders. One of these is on ragworm, but the other one's on lugworm. Flounders will often take when there's very little water left, so if you're after flatfish and you haven't caught any, it's often quite a good idea to stay right to the very death.